I'm just a good-for-nothing thug. But I fell in love with the class's good girl. She likes the bright and diligent sunny boy. So I put on a harmless sheep's disguise. Used a few sweet words to trick her into falling for me step by step. However, just when I was about to win her over, a transfer student suddenly appeared out of nowhere, claiming that they wanted to redeem me. Redeem my ass. Don't mess with me trying to get girls. Chapter 1. My dad was drunk again. Hearing him cursing and stumbling into the house, I quickly got up. I punched myself in the face in front of the mirror. The bone of my finger collided with my cheekbone, causing a pain sharp enough to make me grit my teeth. Soon, a red patch appeared on my skin. This time the force was just right. One punch, direct hit. In the living room, my dad was still throwing a drunken tantrum. I locked the door and went to sleep peacefully. Despite his occasional kicks at the door and the cursing and crashing noises of things being thrown around. The next morning, when I woke up, there was a bruise on my cheekbone. I stood in front of the mirror for a while, carefully inspecting my wound, confirming that no matter which angle I looked at it from, my baseball cap would perfectly hide the bruise. After that, I grabbed my school bag and rushed out the door. It was 6:30 a.m., just in time to bump into Willow, who was coming out from across the street. The autumn had just begun, and the girl had already put on her autumn jacket, holding a warm breakfast milk in her hand, drinking it with her cheeks puffing up. The morning sunlight shone through the dew and reflected on her fair, translucent cheeks, casting a faint glow. My heart involuntarily skipped a beat. I took a deep breath, and the moment I caught her gaze, I quickly looked away in panic. My right hand swiftly pushed the brim of my cap down. In doing so, I completely exposed my injured left cheek to her line of sight. "George, good morning." Before she could finish her sentence, it was abruptly cut off, like a tape recorder that had suddenly stopped. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw her red lips slightly part, staring at my bruised cheek with a look of helplessness. I gritted my teeth and tried to respond casually, but as soon as my eyes met Willow's, I quickly turned my head to look elsewhere. This evasive look was one I had practiced countless times in front of the mirror at home. I knew just how pitiable and worrying I looked from this angle, how easily I exposed the confusion deep in my heart. Just as I expected, Willow took a few steps closer and, just like when we were kids, carefully reached out to touch the bruise on my cheekbone. Her soft fingertip gently pressed on the wound. It didn't hurt much, but I still let out a quiet hiss. If I wanted to make my reaction look more realistic, I should have pulled away slightly and acted a bit more timid. But my cheek had its own thoughts and refused to move away from her fingertip. Forget it. Not every day does Willow's hand touch my face. I let it be. She asked, "Your dad, he hit you again last night?" What Willow didn't know was that ever since I stood up to my dad with a weapon on my 12th birthday, he never dared to hit me again. Now, all that's left are some harmless drunken curses. Or him throwing things around the house in an attempt to maintain his pathetic semblance of being the head of the family. It was from that moment I clearly realized that in an environment where you have no one to rely on, only your own strength and cruelty can make the abuser fear you. But Willow wouldn't like me this way. She has always liked the gentle, warm-hearted boy with a delicate inner side, and I wanted her to like me. She asked, "Does it hurt?" Her sweet voice lost the initial sleepiness and instead carried a hint of pity. I didn't answer directly. I just smiled bitterly, tugging at the corners of my mouth, and brought up another topic. I said, "There's only 1 year left until the college entrance exam." Then Willow fell silent. Chapter 2. I know. At this moment, the kind-hearted girl with a strong sense of empathy was once again naively doing reading comprehension. She would think, in 1 more year, I will be completely free from my dad's financial dependency, escaping his grasp. She would think, in 1 more year, I will embrace a brand new, vibrant life that belongs to me. But what she won't think about is that I am silently calculating how to get her to spend another year by my side, and even have designs on her college years. Willow is always like this, so soft-hearted, so worryingly easy to trust. As vile as I am, facing the purest and most sincere kindness from this girl, I didn't hesitate to take advantage of it. So I heard myself intentionally lower my voice, asking her with the most disheartened tone, half pleading and half guiding, "Willow, let's take the same university entrance exam together. Let me follow your footsteps, step by step, climbing out of the mud of my past, at least until you find someone you truly like. I selfishly want to temporarily occupy the spot as your companion, learning to be the type of person you like, increasing my chances of winning your affection bit by bit." The heavy clouds were blown away by the wind, and golden sunlight spilled onto the path ahead of us. Amidst the shouting from the street vendors selling breakfast, the soft and gentle sound of Willow's voice was intermittently swallowed up, but I still clearly caught the shape of her lips as she spoke. She said, "Then you'll have to work hard to keep up with me. The girl I like agreed to my college entrance exam pact." My good mood from having my wish granted lasted all the way to the last class in the afternoon. until Sophia arrived. I didn't know the new transfer student, but she looked like she was completely here for me, the moment her foot stepped into the classroom. Sophia's gaze seemed to activate like radar, locking right onto me. Her eyes gleamed with a determined light. Before the homeroom teacher could even arrange her seat, she spoke up herself. "Teacher, isn't there an empty seat next to the boy by the window in the last row? I'll sit there for now." She was talking about the seat next to me. I paused in my writing and lazily looked up. For the first time, I really looked at this transfer student who had made me uncomfortable since the moment she appeared. When she saw me looking, Sophia gave me a bright and sweet smile. Her eyes, sparkling with water, curved up. The sunset pouring in from the door was the perfect filter, lighting up the classroom, which had seemed dull from the tedious math problems. Along with her smile, my heart sped up uncontrollably. But clearly, besides feeling confused, all I could feel towards Sophia was an inexplicable sense of annoyance. And from that moment on, everything started to feel off. The usually rigid and traditional homeroom teacher, who valued the distance between boys and girls, uncharacteristically agreed to Sophia's suggestion of sitting at my desk. Makoto, who was sitting in the front row and only cared about studying, actually turned around and started teasing me. His mocking gaze shifted back and forth between me and Sophia. His expression so lewd, it made it seem like there was some unspoken, ambiguous relationship between me and this transfer student, whom I had only just met. I glanced at Willow in the middle of the front row. I don't know if it was just my imagination, but it seemed like Willow had suddenly been draped with a thin, gray veil. She looked so much dimmer. Before I could observe her more closely, Sophia, who had already gotten the homeroom teacher's approval, walked over to my desk, blocking my entire view of Willow. She said, "New desk partner, please take care of me from now on." The girl playfully lifted the tone at the end. Chapter 3. Take care of you, my ass. Just as she was about to sit down after pulling out her chair, I suddenly stood up. Without hesitation, I lifted my desk and walked toward the front row of the classroom. As I walked, I explained to the teacher, who was still standing at the podium, "Teacher, I feel like my focus has been off recently, so I'd like to sit next to the teacher's desk and have the teachers help supervise my studies. Something's off. Everything and everyone feels wrong." Before I could figure out what was going on, I had to stay close to Willow to feel at ease. After setting up my desk and chair, I turned to face the girl behind me, asking gently, "Will I be blocking your view of the blackboard?" Willow seemed lost in thought, blinking vacantly. Her long, curled eyelashes fluttered like feathers, stirring my heart. The calm lake of my heart rippled with waves. Yes, this is the real feeling of falling for someone. That sudden quickening of my heartbeat earlier, maybe it was just some after effects from staying up late the other day. When I looked at Willow again, the gray veil I had thought I saw earlier had completely disappeared. Maybe I had really just imagined it. After a while, I finally heard her distracted response, "It won't block." What's wrong with her? Is she feeling unwell? I soon found out the answer, because right after the class ended, Willow gently tapped my back. "George," she called my name, her voice soft and pleasant. She said, "Are you serious about what you said this morning, about wanting to take the same university entrance exam as me?" It was clear that Willow wasn't good at asking these kinds of questions, especially those that might have other implications. Her pale fingers, resting on the desk, curled up nervously, whether from embarrassment or something else. The back of her ears flushed with a faint red. Her doe-like eyes trembled slightly. "I'm serious," I said, emphasizing each word. "You've always been my ultimate goal." But Willow furrowed her brows. Her tone conflicted and troubled. She said, "But the university I want to go to has a very high cutoff score." I immediately made my stance clear. "So I'm going to have to work really hard from now on." She finally lifted her gaze to meet mine and, as if to confirm something, reiterated, "It's going to be really tough for you." I said, "What's the process of climbing up if not tough? But I believe the view from the top will make everything worth it." Her furrowed brow relaxed slightly, but she still looked at me hesitantly, as if wanting to say something but stopping herself. I slowly closed the distance between us. Half in jest, half testing, I teased her. "Got anything else to say? Let's ask all at once. Afterward, I'll need to ask Teacher Lou for help. If I give her the wrong impression of being weak-willed from the start, she might not want to teach me seriously in the future." Maybe my earnest way of calling Teacher Lou was just too amusing. Willow smiled. Her dimples appeared faintly on her cheeks, making me smile along with her. Well then, not only did the classroom brighten, but my entire world also lit up. And so, in the warm sunlight, Willow made her final request. She asked me, "Could you please not get too close to Sophia?" The smile on my lips froze as if someone had cast a spell. For once, I found my mind blank in front of Willow. Is she jealous of Sophia? Chapter 4. I'll admit it, I'm a bit of a coward. Although I've known Willow for a long time, I can hardly imagine the possibility that Willow would like me. The only time I dared to think about it was the day I realized I had feelings for Willow. I'll never forget that completely ordinary night. The moon wasn't particularly full, and the night wasn't especially beautiful. My drunken father was passed out on the floor in the living room, spewing filthy words one after another. I opened the window to air out the nauseating smell of alcohol in the room. When I looked up, I saw the girl across the street, her face blooming like a flower with a smile. She was playfully toying with the sensitive plant on the windowsill. Her fingers were like a mischievous child, teasing every leaf of the plant. The leaves shyly curled up, and she smiled, as though her little plan had succeeded. Her dimples appeared with the upward curve of her lips, showing on her fair, innocent face. The anxiety that had built up in my chest after confronting my father was blown away by the evening breeze, and before I knew it, my lips had curled into a smile as well. I don't even know why, but I suddenly imagined myself as the sensitive plant in Willow's hands. What if her finger were to gently touch my face instead, her clear, watery eyes focusing on me the same way, her smile slowly appearing as her fingers lightly touched me? It was just an imagination, yet my profile felt as though someone was really gently tapping it with a fingertip. The strings in my heart were slowly plucked, sending shivers that rippled through me. I unconsciously swallowed. I suddenly felt flustered and dared not look at Willow any longer. As I turned my head to avoid her gaze, I caught a glimpse of my own red face in the mirror by the bed. The sound of my heart beating like a drum rang in my ears. My mind was dizzy and swollen, and all I could think was, I'm probably done for. Well, no, not probably. I'm already done. At this moment, everything about Willow's behavior clearly pointed to one possibility. She was jealous. Willow was jealous for me. Willow was jealous for me. The overwhelming joy struck me like a heavy hammer, and I was left dazed. This secret happiness was like the rising tide of the sea, continuously surging in my chest, bringing with it waves that threatened to drown me. Just when I was floating in joy, she said, "If you're unwilling, then our agreement is off." What? How could that be? Who's unwilling? I forced myself to suppress the overwhelming joy inside, maintaining the gentle and warm persona I always show others. After swallowing several times, I finally steadied my voice and said, "Okay, I won't talk to her." The moment the words left my mouth, it was as if Willow had let go of a heavy burden. She returned to her usual bright and lively self. She said, "Then it's settled. We'll meet at C University 1 year from now." From now. Such a beautiful phrase. My future with Willow. Chapter 5. But heaven never grants what you wish for. What came earlier than the future was Sophia's relentless harassment. Although it sounds strange, that's exactly the impression Sophia left on me. I've seen girls write love letters, confessing their feelings. I've seen girls express their affection in subtle ways, but Sophia was completely different. It seemed like the moment she arrived here, she had one goal, me. She would stare at me from across the classroom for the entire lesson. She would blatantly knit me scarves during break time. She'd always be late for morning self-study, just to bring me breakfast that she had made herself. She'd hover around me during every recitation time, chattering about her unremarkable extracurricular life. Even though I always responded to her with cold indifference, she was always smiling and cheerful. Despite all my rejections, she still did as she pleased. She constantly orbited around me, single-mindedly, like a piece of chewing gum that you can't shake off, clinging to me without letting go. At the same time, the faint gray mist that had briefly surrounded Willow before returned. It clouded all the light she had once had in my eyes. The gentle, quiet, hard-working girl I remembered faded into dullness under the lively and vivid image of Sophia. Her top rankings in the class, always in the top 3, were now slipping month by month. Although Willow never showed any negative emotions in front of me, her once regular sleep schedule had now turned into late nights every day for a month. This was something that would never have happened to her, who had always pursued study efficiency. I could see it. She was anxious. And all of this started after Sophia began interacting with me more frequently. I vaguely sensed something, yet my gaze couldn't help but fall on Sophia. That lively and passionate energy she had was becoming more and more captivating as we spent more time together. Perhaps people are easily touched by a girl whose heart and eyes are entirely on them. When Sophia once again gazed at me with her bright, sparkling eyes, for the first time, I wavered in my promise to Willow. So, during the evening self-study session, under Willow's disappointed and complicated gaze, I turned my back and skipped class, taking Sophia to the mountain to race. Before leaving, Willow grabbed my sleeve and, with a defiant tilt of her head, asked, "Are you sure you want to skip school with Sophia?" I couldn't bring myself to meet her questioning gaze. I simply handed her back the special workbook she had made for me. That was my entire answer to her. Chapter 6. The Mountain Road at Night, where speed and passion collided to create the dazzling fireworks of youth. The evening breeze rustling, making my open school jacket flutter freely. Even the most well-behaved people or things, once they break free from their restraints, can become wild. We reached the mountaintop, and the city's nightscape lay beneath us. Sophia spread her arms wide, fully embracing the howling mountain wind, and after a while, she turned around and smiled at me, saying, "How about it? Isn't this life more exciting than being a bookworm and dying with your nose in the books?" In response to Sophia's question, I lazily curled the corner of my lips. The taste of freedom was indeed quite appealing. She said, "George, admit it. This is the real you. This is the life you should be living." I smiled as I watched Sophia walk toward me step by step. Her face still wore that familiar look of determination, one that had grown more self-satisfied since the day she transferred. She said, "You were always a wild creature of the mountains. So why suppress your true nature and disguise yourself as a harmless, gentle bird?" She continued, "What's the point of a boring, traditional girl like Willow? George, be with me. Willow only likes the version of you that you've pretended to be. Only I like the real, original you. With me, you can always be yourself." Standing still, Sophia slowly rose onto her tiptoes, her delicate, long neck stretched upward, showing a graceful line along her jaw. Then, I grabbed her by the neck. I sneered, "A wild creature of the mountains. Ah, well, that's one that bites." My fingers tightened little by little. In Sophia's fearful eyes, I hardened my voice. I said, "You didn't listen to my kind advice. You kept interrupting my studies and my life, over and over again. Sophia, I've never had much patience for others. If it weren't for not wanting Willow to see the other side of me, I would have acted against you the moment I heard you secretly encouraging classmates to isolate Willow. But the truth is, being polite and gentle doesn't work with you. If I don't show you what I can do, you'll never understand what boundaries and restraint really mean." Sophia's face turned bright red. At this point, she was still being stubborn. She said, "George, think back to the thrill of racing up the mountain road with me tonight. You'll probably never experience this kind of excitement with Willow. She's boring, stiff. Why would you give up being your true self just to please her? Only I truly like you after seeing the real you. I came specifically for you, to save you from the mask you've been wearing." Save me? No one knew better than I did what true salvation was. From a young age, I was nothing but a burden in my mom's eyes, a weight that kept her trapped in her miserable life. Whenever she thought it was time to leave, I would always panic and cry loudly. Her escape plan was always cut short by my screams, until I was 5. When I saw through my mom's every intention, after she left me again, I silently stared at her retreating back. From beginning to end, she never looked back at me. That night, after my father found out that my wife had left, he vented his anger all on me, pinning me against the door, punching and kicking me. After hitting me, he slapped his hands, cursed, and walked away, leaving me alone in a pitch-black room without a shred of light. The night breeze was cold, and it made my wounds sting. I struggled to turn over, dazed, staring at the moon above, letting the dampness and coldness of the floor surround me. My father didn't care, my mother didn't love me, and I was laughed at and bullied by other kids my age. My personality gradually twisted in the accumulated resentment toward the world, until Willow moved next door with her grandmother. Chapter 7. Her experiences were very similar to mine, both abandoned by our mothers, both subjected to our father's abuse. The only difference was that she had her grandmother to pull her out from the claws of that misery. But that small difference didn't affect my subconscious urge to feel a sense of closeness to her because of our similar pasts. So, I took the initiative to stop her on the side of the road. "Hey, want to come with me to the internet cafe and play games?" She said. "It's Friday. I have to go to school." I asked, "What's so great about school? No one cares whether we do well or not." The girl with braids gave me a strange look and said, "Studying isn't for others. It's for ourselves. It's our own life. And as long as we care, that's enough." With that, she continued walking ahead, but as she passed me, she grabbed my backpack strap and pulled me along toward the school. She said, "Come with me to school." Her strength wasn't much, and I could have easily shrugged her off, but for some reason, I followed her. That day, for the first time, I seriously listened to an entire class. For the first time, I received praise from the teacher. When I got home after school, I secretly followed Willow. I wanted to tell her that I had been good and went to school today, but I couldn't bring myself to say it. This time, she took the initiative to stop in front of me. She said, "Today, your teacher praised you in our class. She said that even though you refused to study, if you just spent a little more effort on your studies, you could probably even beat the top student in the class." Hope is a powerful motivator. Because of the words she passed on, I studied hard in my 3rd year of middle school. In the end, I barely made it into a prestigious high school. Willow lied to me that day. My teacher had never said that, but I'll forever be grateful for her lie. In the darkness, a girl opened the rusty iron gate and unselfishly shared the light she used to guide me. From then on, no matter how scorching the sun in the sky, it could never compete with the dim, warm light that shone in front of her. And what about Sophia? She indulged my bad temper, allowed my laziness to enjoy life, and encouraged me to waste my precious time. She called it salvation, but I already had a guiding light ahead of me. So how could I be misled by the inconspicuous firefly by the roadside? Sophia wouldn't understand. If a wild beast of the mountains doesn't meet someone who can tame it, it will eventually let loose, hurt others, and flee in disgrace, only to die under the modern urban hunter's gun. I loosened my grip slightly. I straightened my arm and pushed her a full arm's length away, looking at her like she was an idiot. I still couldn't resist cursing. Save your grandpa. I've already climbed out of the mud pit and gone after my little son. You're really full of yourself. The so-called excitement of youth that you talk about is just a waste of time to me. I have my life goals and pursuits. Those boring, dead studies you talk about are the path I chose to take. So don't project your narrow thinking onto me. Don't compare yourself, who's ignorant and lazy, with the diligent and hard-working Willow. To me, she will always be better than you. I'm warning you. Stay on your sunny path and stop causing trouble on our narrow bridge. I said it as if to sever ties completely. But since I was willing to risk being misunderstood by Willow to pretend I was playing along with Sophia, and even skip class with her, it was impossible for me to just leave it at a verbal warning. Besides, I had something even more important I needed to figure out tonight. Chapter 8. I pulled out the hemp rope from my backpack and tied Sophia to a tree at the mountaintop. Ignoring her continuous pleas, I revved up the motorcycle and skillfully drifted away from the summit. But not long after, I quickly ditched the bike and ran back. I cautiously circled around the tree where Sophia was tied, keeping my distance. With her hands bound behind her, Sophia twisted like a wriggling worm, struggling relentlessly. She muttered angrily to herself, "Damn it, the sound of the motorcycle engine is gone. Has George really left me here alone on the mountaintop?" Yet, there was no sign of the usual fear one would expect from an ordinary girl left alone in such a quiet, desolate place. Her dark eyes scanned the surroundings, and once she confirmed she was truly abandoned, Sophia stomped her foot in frustration, as if making up her mind. Suddenly, she gritted her teeth and said aloud, "I've made up my mind. I'm going to tap into the power of the plot. George can handle the female lead halo. Fine, but I don't believe he can withstand the power of the plot pushing him. No matter what it costs, my first mission cannot fail. The female lead of this world can only be me." She really was strange, but it was too late for me to do anything about it. Almost immediately after Sophia finished speaking, an invisible force seemed to push me forward. My heart raced unexpectedly when I saw Sophia. It felt like my consciousness was floating above me as I saw myself showing the gentle expression I only reserved for Willow, untangling her ropes, and pulling her into my arms. In the blind spot where my eyes couldn't see, Sophia's lips curled into a smug, self-satisfied smile. She leaned seductively against my shoulder, half complaining, half teasing. "You're so bad. You hurt me when you grabbed me earlier, and now you've tied me up." My arm prickled with goosebumps, but even so, I couldn't help but gently comfort her. This strange behavior continued until I got home. At the doorstep, Willow was standing by the road, holding the workbook I had returned to her. The late autumn night had already started to carry a hint of winter's chill. Willow's small nose was red from the cold wind, yet she still stood outside waiting for me. As soon as she saw me from a distance, her eyes brightened noticeably. "George, you're back." If this had been before tonight, I might have smiled at her sweet greeting, but now, I replied. The tone of my voice sounded distant and indifferent. Willow was taken aback by my sudden cold response. She hesitated for a moment, then asked, "What does what you wrote in the workbook mean?" Fearing Willow might misunderstand, I had written a brief explanation in the front page of the workbook while Sophia was distracted, hastily jotting down, "I'll explain everything when I get back." But things had taken a turn. I tried desperately to resist that invisible hand, but to no avail. It forced me into a mocking expression as I lightly smirked and said to Willow, "You really believed it? I was just playing with you." The girl in front of me opened her mouth helplessly. There was something breaking and shattering in her watery eyes. Piece by piece, Willow's lashes trembled. As if realizing something, she looked at me, her voice trembling as she asked, "George, are you going to break our promise?" I answered, "Yes. I don't want my only youth to be wasted on boring studies." I heard myself answer without hesitation. Willow didn't say anything else, her expression turning cold as she nodded. "Okay, I understand. I should have believed that dream." Leaving those last words, she turned and left, the workbook in her hands flying into the air and landing perfectly in the trash can. My heart ached with a sharp pain, but the next moment, the emotion quickly faded. Only two cold, emotionless monologues echoed in my mind. Willow hates people who break promises. She's going to hate me so much. Chapter 9. After that night, Willow and I became complete strangers. Even when we crossed paths, we never exchanged a single glance. In contrast, The more time passed, the closer Sophia and I became. Inseparable. Provoked by my rebuttal the day before, Sophia became even more determined to prove the correctness of her beliefs. She stubbornly thought that forcing me to return to my ruthless, rebellious, and unrestrained self was the greatest redemption for me. Determined to walk that path no matter the consequences, she said, "No one doesn't long for the freedom to live their own life. If someone does, it's because they've never experienced the taste of a fearless, colorful youth. By then, you'll probably regret not meeting me earlier." She said it with absolute certainty. The irony was, the one who said she wanted me to be myself was actually the one preventing me from freely choosing my own life path. In the senior year, when everyone was fully focused on studying, Sophia dragged me into the midst of indulgence and excess, enjoying a lifestyle that shouldn't belong to someone our age. Decay, indulgence, waste. I gradually found myself drifting farther from the resolve, ideals, and goals I once set for myself. Watching as my life was taken from me while I stood powerless to resist, I thought this was all the power of the plot that Sophia had talked about. Though angry, I could only suppress my emotions and look for any possible way out. But things were much worse than I had imagined. Willow fainted in class. After being sent to the hospital, the doctors couldn't find anything wrong, only saying it might be due to the pressure of the final year. But I knew that wasn't the case, because the gray mist that had surrounded Willow began, I didn't know when, to turn into a heavy black. As the black mist spread across her body, Willow quickly lost weight, and the healthy flush in her cheeks completely faded. I saw it with my own eyes, my heart racing with worry. But no matter how anxious and worried I felt inside, my body couldn't communicate any of it to Willow. No sound, no movement, no glance. My gaze was trapped, and I could only focus entirely on Sophia. Finally, on the evening of the winter solstice, the black mist completely enveloped her. Willow fainted again in the classroom amidst the sounds of evening self-study, and this time, she never woke up. It was the first time I clearly realized how quickly life can slip away, how quickly a flower that had just begun to bloom in the morning can wilt by the afternoon, leaving only the branches behind. My heart felt like it had been pierced open with scissors, the cold wind rushing in. Winter had settled into my heart and soul. Amid the overwhelming chill, I heard Sophia's triumphant voice by my side. She said, "Ha, this is the price of defying me." I was wrong. I always thought that as long as Willow was okay, I would have time to think of a way to break free from the control of the plot. But I didn't realize that from the very beginning, they never intended to let Willow go. If that's the case, then no one will get away unscathed. Chapter 10. Through the information Sophia inadvertently revealed during our interactions, I roughly figured out the strange things about her. She was an outsider in this world. She came with the task of targeting me, her goal being to replace Willow and be with me. But the world has its own stabilizing system and doesn't allow an unknown person to just appear out of nowhere. So, once it's determined who the outsider is, they will be erased. Clearly, Sophia used some kind of cheat to avoid being erased by the world. She replaced Willow and stayed in this world, and that meant her mission was one step closer to success. Because of this, when she learned that Willow had died, Sophia was in a great mood. That night, she dragged me to a bar, and in her triumphant state, she got drunk. After several drinks of strong cocktails, she became a bit tipsy. With her eyes half-lidded, she looked at me pitifully and said, "George, you have to be good to me. Okay, I'm betting everything to target you, and if I fail, I'll be punished severely." So, she softened her tone and leaned closer. "Can you start liking me earlier?" A thought crossed my mind. I glanced at the group of thugs who had been giving us sidelong glances since Sophia walked in. Seeing that Sophia was too drunk to get up, the group of men finally made their move, closing in on us with unfriendly expressions. The leader, a tattooed guy, Wolf, whistled at Sophia and ogled her lecherously. Knowing that the plot force wouldn't stop me from making any move to show interest in Sophia, I casually pulled her into my arms, and with my other hand, I provocatively gave the group a middle finger. As expected, they were immediately enraged. "You little brat, what the hell was that?" The situation escalated quickly, and Sophia's drunkenness cleared up a little. As she opened her eyes, she saw one of the men trying to grab her, and the others were shouting. Frightened, she kept backing away toward me. In the tense atmosphere, for the first time, I pulled her behind me and protected her, saying, "Don't be afraid." The girl's eyes lit up with surprise as she looked at me. It seemed like something inside her recognized this as my spontaneous action and told her. She probably thought I was starting to like her. What an idiot. She had already shown me all her cards and didn't even realize that disaster was about to strike. It was obvious. The tattooed man's target was Sophia. Seeing her behind me, he charged toward us to grab her. Seizing the moment, I grabbed an empty bottle nearby, smashed it, and struck him on the head with all my strength. The anger was instantly ignited. The man, who had pulled out the knife I had briefly seen when he entered, immediately stabbed at me without a second thought. I gripped Sophia with one hand, not letting her move from behind me, because only this way could I ensure that my body would fully take the brunt of the blade. The white blade pierced my abdomen and was quickly pulled out. Fueled by alcohol, the men relentlessly stabbed at me, again and again. The dance hall erupted in continuous screams. As my life was about to end, the plot force finally ceased to affect me. I endured the excruciating pain and slowly turned to face the girl's panicked, helpless eyes. Lifting the corner of my lips in a slow, faint smile, I said, "Target eliminated. Mission failed. Sophia, enjoy the punishment for your failed mission." What answered me was Sophia's piercing scream. "No, no. But you don't get to refuse. I paid with my life so you could face the cruelest punishment, with no happy ending. But it's too bad. I couldn't bring back the future that Willow and I should have had. I've never even held the girl I've been longing for." Chapter 11. The air in my chest was almost gone, and the suffocating fear surged over my head like a tidal wave. The next second, I suddenly sat up, gasping for breath, but I was met with Sophia's resentful gaze on the desk in front of me. Turning my head, I saw my own bruised cheekbone reflected on the smooth, newly cleaned glass window. I was back to the day Sophia transferred to the school. In an instant, my eyes eagerly searched for Willow's figure. She was sitting in the front row, head lowered, writing quickly. She was probably doing math problems, and a faint blush colored her smooth cheeks. I stared at her, almost greedily. But then, in the next second, I froze. Behind Willow, where she couldn't see, a streak of gray mist silently covered her again. As long as Sophia exists, Willow's life will always be in danger. Thinking of the scene where Willow's pale face was carried out of the classroom, I silently made up my mind. I pulled my gaze away and looked back at Sophia, who was now no longer smiling at me. Instead, a chilling coldness and obsession replaced the smile. Perfect. Let's see who will survive this. But before that, I kicked the chair in front of me, tapping Makoto on the shoulder. "Hey, class rep, don't you have an instant camera at school?" "Yeah, it's in my drawer." "Do you need it?" I said. "After class, could you take a picture of me and Willow?" He replied. "Sure." Surprisingly, Willow didn't ask any more questions about taking the photo. At the door of the classroom, I stood next to her. As the camera was about to click, I quickly raised my hand and gently placed it on Willow's shoulder, just like holding her. "Maybe, when the mountains are high and the water's deep, I won't be able to be with you." "Hey, there's only one photo paper left. Who should keep this photo?" Makoto asked. I took a quick glance at the photo. With the retro filter, the two of us smiled a little awkwardly at the camera. At first glance, it even gave off a vibe of a young couple in a high school drama. "Kind of perfect." "Really?" I said. "Just keep it. You're the one who'll take care of it. I'm a rough guy. I'll probably lose it soon anyway." I handed the photo to Willow. Willow has a special album at home. She's sentimental and often takes it out to flip through. "If it's with her, I can at least have my face seen again in the future," she said. "Okay, I'll keep it here." She took the photo and looked down at it, not sure what she was thinking. Downstairs, Sophia, who was a day student, had already reached the school gate. Without looking at Willow any longer, I quickly turned and caught up with her. Speechless, why was Sophia's cheat still following her, bringing it all back? Once the plot force was used again, I was taken to her small house. It was clear how deep her hatred for me ran. She was so desperate to lock me up and make me experience the same kind of punishment that she had endured, planning to have me feel the hopelessness of being unable to survive or die. She said, "You think you're so impressive, so noble, that you'll sacrifice me for your and Willow's love, huh?" Sophia asked, her face dark with anger. Restricted by her cheat, I couldn't even argue back. She continued, "I originally wanted to make you experience the pain I went through, one by one, but..." She seemed to have thought of something, and her lips curled into a mocking smile. "When I saw you, I changed my mind. You'd rather give up your life for Willow's revenge, right?" "Really don't know." She stretched out the last word. "What kind of expression you'll have when you watch Willow suffer through all that. I really can't wait to see it." Just as she finished speaking, a polite knock echoed from outside the door. Chapter 12. She said, "I've brought you a gift." Sophia sneered as she walked to the door. Just before she turned the doorknob, she looked back at me and raised an eyebrow provocatively. The old wooden door creaked as it opened. The streetlights outside fought to squeeze through the crack in the door, spilling into the room. Willow stood backlit, holding, before I could even see what she was holding, the girl was already quick enough to strike Sophia's head with it. I heard the loud, harsh sound of wood meeting skull from across the room. The next second, Sophia staggered and fell to the ground, unable to get up for a while. Seizing the moment, Willow rushed into the room and stood in front of me. The girl's eyes were unfocused, and her earlobes were bright red for some reason, like they were bleeding. She took a deep breath, then cupped my face in both hands. She said, "George, I know your body isn't under your control right now, but the situation is urgent, and there's no other way." With that, Willow closed her eyes and gently kissed my lips, like a dragonfly skimming the water. I froze. It wasn't the stiff kind of freeze, it was the kind of freeze when a long-held wish finally comes true, but Willow didn't know. Seeing that I hadn't reacted for a while, she thought it wasn't enough. So she kissed me again. Holy crap, the fireworks in my head were about to blow me up. Dazed, I quickly looked away and glanced at the other side of the room. I didn't want to look, but once I did, I was shocked. The gray mist that had once surrounded Willow had now shifted to Sophia and was rapidly turning into a thick black cloud, almost completely enveloping her. So, if Willow and I kiss, will it erase Sophia? Is that really a thing? Why didn't anyone say so earlier? I thought I was mentally preparing to spend the rest of my life in prison. After the first kiss broke the restraints, my hands, now free, placed one hand at the back of Willow's head and the other on her back. I moved forward, blocking her again. Willow hummed in confusion, but I couldn't hear it. The sound of my heartbeat drowned everything out, and I didn't even notice when Sophia's body turned cold. After it was over, the room felt a little weird. One person lay motionless on the ground, dead. Two people stood facing each other, blushing and not daring to look at one another. The atmosphere stayed frozen for a long time. I scratched my head and said, I feel like there's still some sort of physical restraint, like it wasn't completely undone." "Is that the case?" I asked, playing dumb. Finally, Willow looked up at me. Her gaze wasn't very friendly, though, but it felt good. It was Willow, alive and full of vitality. Still a bit awkward, though. I forced myself to look away from the almost glued to Willow lips and brought up the main question. "How did you know that a kiss could erase Sophia?" Of course, I had to ask that at the wrong time again. Willow pursed her lips and said, "I knew from a dream. I had a dream about Sophia in my past life, but back then, the dream only showed that you'd gradually give up on your studies under her temptation, and then we'd part ways after the summer following senior year. At first, I didn't completely believe it, but you know how things went. You were helpless, but in my eyes, it was like the dream came true. Until I died and came back, the dream was finally completed in full. The world we live in is a novel. You and I are, well, the main characters. Sophia is the book crosser trying to target you. The world's stabilizing mechanism isn't that advanced. It only judges who is a native based on your actions. So between me and Sophia, whoever you grow closer to will erase the other one. It turns out, the ones who came back weren't just me and Sophia. The charming emotions faded away into heavy memories. I glanced at Sophia's body on the floor and asked, what do we do with her body? Chapter 13. In the end, Sophia's body disappeared without a trace, and all evidence of her existence in this world was erased. Willow and I returned to our busy but fulfilling senior year, knowing that we were the main characters of this world was, aside from being somewhat unbelievable, just another fact. Perhaps in another space-time, we were merely paper figures in a book, but in the world we live in, everything was a living, breathing reality. Nothing would fall from the sky just because we were the main characters. I still had to rely on my own efforts to make sure I could attend the same university as Willow. After all, I was her male lead. Damn, just thinking about it made me happy. Tonight, I'll finish another set of physics problems. Before I get to that, I asked, Willow, can I have that photo of us together from that day? She replied, no. I asked, why not? She said, I'm afraid you'll be so distracted that you won't focus on studying. I meekly shut up. After all, I had done that before. Sigh. I can't wait for the college entrance exam to be over. Once it's done, I'll confess. After Willow agrees, I'll have a way to shut her up next time something like this happens. Extra, little skit. Later, on a day after getting together, George, not giving up, asked Willow for that photo again, thinking that once we were done with senior year, Willow would have no excuse to deny him. But unexpectedly, Willow replied, no. George asked, why not? She said, because you'll kiss my photo on the way, and that's a little embarrassing. George's ears turned red, because he had done that back in junior high. He had kissed Willow's photo, and a classmate found out. In a fit of embarrassment, he got angry, however. Just when he was about to give up hope, Willow said, kissing a photo is embarrassing, but kissing me won't be. In the end, George became the one whose mouth was shut. The flag collapsed into a pile of ruins.